Hey, this is Rachel from the Life Facilitator, and I am sharing a Journal with Me video today. I'm working in my Amy Tangerine Archer and Olive undated planner, and I am pulling from the Cocoa Daisy Flourish Collection. Specifically, I think I'm focusing mostly on the creative kit. Little flip through here. I have a full flip through, including this spread on my channel right now. So if you want to see more of the completion of this journal, please check it out. I am going to start with stamping. And this is a big reason why I love this planner is because I adore the paper. The paper is the best. And it's so good for stamping, which is also good because it is a bound planner. And so it is nice to be able to have stamping as an option. Now, there, I was using last year the Sterling ink planner that has Tomoe River paper, and you can stamp on that. You just can't stamp on it with really juicy inks, and most of my inks, they're pretty juicy. And so I am happy to be back in this format. So starting with the dates, if you are new to stamping and you're looking for a type of stamp that is going to sort of be basically an evergreen stamp, might I suggest date stamps? Because it is so nice to be able to date your pages with stamps instead of having to rely on stickers. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I tend to go sort of willy-nilly with date stickers, and then I'm always like missing the 18 or the 23. And so you don't have to worry about that with number stamps because you can just keep using them forever and ever. I am making a little month cluster in the bottom corner of the notes section of this planner. I have not done this in a while. I'll be honest, I was doing clusters a lot, maybe like 2 years ago, and I haven't really done them in a while. And it was super fun to go back to this style. The real star of the show for this spread will be the floral stamps from the Flourish collection, and I'm gonna make basically like a floral banner across the middle of the page. Um, when I saw this stamp set, this was immediately what came to mind, which was play, have some fun making a little like basically floral banner. Is exactly what I said. Um, and it was really fun. And part of the fun of having this journal is the play aspect of it, the idea of trying something a little bit different each week, and also not being precious about like if ink gets stuck or this is really a place for me to continue to maintain a creative practice, which is super important for me in order to avoid burnout. I wear two main hats in a given week. Well, let's say three. I wear three main hats in a given week. One of those hats includes just facilitating life. So home admin, making sure, we have food and, I have clean clothes and, the adulting stuff, which I am super grateful to be in a season where this responsibility is not falling entirely to me. Very grateful for that. So that's one of my hats. My other hat is content creation for obviously for Cocoa Daisy. I run the blog for Cocoa Daisy and am part of their creative team. And so there's that creative aspect of my sort of weekly life. I'm also on the creative team for Everyday Explorers. So I have these like creative projects that I'm involved with most weeks. And then my other most recent hat is as a academic coach for students, specifically around executive function. So those are three often very different hats. And one thing that I have been aware of over the last probably like month and a half is that I'm starting to recognize what burnout looks like for me and what I need to do to avoid it. Or not avoid it, but to be aware of it and then sort of uh, pivot to um, yeah, to get sort of back to a place where I'm feeling grounded and um, you know, good. And so one of the telltale signs for me of burnout is when I don't want to do the things that I actually enjoy doing. And one of those things is creating. So I know that sounds counterintuitive, especially as I just mentioned, being on a few creative teams, you would think, of course, I always want to create. That's just not true. And if I'm not careful, burnout will come for me if I'm not taking opportunities to do things that are creative for creative's sake. Enter this journal. Yes, I'm using Cocoa Daisy products, but the goal of this is actually not to promote Cocoa Daisy. The goal is actually for me to play and to um, take time to just create for creative sake. Um, this goes a long way to um, decreasing burnout. Another tell one second. Another telltale sign of burnout for me is when I start to get cynical or detached from the things that I'm doing. So, a good example of that within my role as a creative person and in promoting products for creative companies is when I start to doubt myself within this space. Basically, when I let the inner critic be louder than sort of my kind and curious self. And that's when that starts to happen, burnout is coming for me. And so, again, another way that I challenge that inner critic is something I've mentioned in other videos is my little wins journal. Um, and it's a similar idea of that the journal is meant it serves the purpose of keeping receipts for my for the little wins that I experience so that my inner critic doesn't get all the attention. And by attention, I mean memory, because I'm a lot more likely to remember when things didn't go well than when things did. And so that's another way that um, when the inner critic starts to get loud, I am aware of, I'm aware that burnout is coming. And to mitigate that, I focus on making sure that I am taking time to update my little wins journal. And um, so, yeah, that's a little diatribe. So, as I continue working on this journal spread, you'll see I have pulled out the rub ons. And if you've never used rub ons before, I highly recommend them to you. They are so fun. There's something really tactile and I don't know, it's like therapeutic to use rub-ons. They're just really fun. I think what it is it definitely harkens back to like being a kid and playing with, paper. And that's the goal. Once again, that's the goal is to um create for creating sake. And so, in a lot of ways, yes, this is a journal. It does hold information about what happened in a given week, um, and typically a few reflections on said things from the week. But for me, the number one um, goal of having this is is actually the creative process. Um, is basically, yeah, just making sure I am making time to create. Um, and everything when and this is the other thing is if I'm not consistently, and by consistently I mean like at least trying to do this once a week. When I'm not consistent with this, I tend to feel it elsewhere in my life. Like, um, and again, yeah, like going back to the burnout and whatnot. Yeah. So as I continue filling out the information, um, I already I remember working on this. I worked on this like over a month ago. And this is a really good example of you do something, you film it, and then there's like a roadblock. In this case, it was literally what I'm doing right now, the voiceover. I had this filmed and edited and like ready to go for over a month, and um, I just needed to do the voiceover, and I kept putting it off. And so yeah, I mean, that happens. But um, I even though I worked on this a while ago, I am not letting that roadblock continue to be a roadblock. So if you're out there and you've got something that you've been putting off, you know, give yourself permission to do it, you know, good enough. Done is better than perfect. And man, more and more in my life, I am feeling that this idea of done is better than perfect. Because perfect is a myth, you know, um, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. Um, that is, ooh, speaking of, that's another way that burnout shows up in my life is that I start to get very all or nothing with my thinking. I start to catastrophize things. Basically, I just sort of lose, I lose the ability to sort of balance my like emotional reaction to things with sort of a rational look at like what's really going on. Um, and a good way to um, challenge that all or nothing thinking is getting curious. So asking yourself questions from a place of curiosity instead of a place of criticism. All right, we are getting close to the end of this spread. I should also mention there are often days where I don't really have anything to say, and that's totally okay. Again, because the goal of this is, just creative play, I don't mind having days where it's just like mostly decorative and not a lot of journaling. Um, Although I am talking a lot about Sunday, which was a weird incident where we were coming home from a flight and my ticket had been canceled, even though I had been on the flight. It was a very strange situation. Um, I'm proud of how I handled it. I think I probably, if I had not been in a good space, I probably would have lost it. All right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.